Hey guys, this is Jared from Transformational Coaching. Action is transformation. In this video, we're going to get into how to draw boundaries. Drawing boundaries is one of the most key things that you can learn to bring more peace into your life. Countries who don't have clearly defined boundaries get into wars and conflicts all the time. For me, drawing boundaries has been one of the biggest lessons that I needed to learn in my life in order to feel more at peace, in order to reduce conflict and chaos and stress in my life. We naturally feel overwhelmed when we don't know how to draw clear boundaries. So in this video, I'm going to share with you 3 key points that will allow you to draw boundaries in a more fluidic, easier manner so you can start living more peacefully. A lot of people tell me they don't have time, they don't have energy, they don't have the resources, and whenever they want to do something or change something in life, but really it's just because they haven't learned how to draw boundaries. So I can remember growing up as a child. I grew up in a family of 6, so there was a lot of people, and there were never any boundaries. I lived with my brothers in the same room. We would share clothes, we would share food, we would borrow money from each other, we'd steal things from each other. There was never any sense of clear boundaries. I can remember stealing my brother's shoes and then being worried about him seeing pictures of me wearing his shoes later, like years later. And that was because boundaries were never drawn. And so drawing boundaries gives us peace. When we have clearly defined boundaries saying this is this and that is that, it actually brings peace and order to life. So growing up in a big home, I never actually had clear boundaries with any of my brothers or sisters. My boundaries just weren't there because that was just my experience of life. I just thought that was completely normal. I never lived any other way. And then finally, I went into the Marine Corps, and in the Marine Corps, there's not too many boundaries because you're living with a bunch of other people. And it wasn't until I finally started living on my own did I realize, oh my gosh, boundaries are important. They're huge. If you don't create boundaries, then that's what creates stress and anxiety in your life. And so I got to this point where I said I need to start speaking up my truth and drawing clear boundaries, but I didn't necessarily know how to do it. I remember after the military, I came back home, and when I came back home, all of a sudden I started speaking more of my boundaries with my family, and I still had some brothers and sisters living at the home at that time. And so when I was there, I suddenly realized, wow, I started drawing my boundaries. I started seeing that no one else was drawing clear boundaries, so I started triggering a lot of people in my family. And that's usually what happens when you first start drawing your boundaries. You start feeling better. However, it's going to trigger other people because other people are used to just coming in and out as they go. That's what feels normal to them. However, you recognize that creates a lot of anxiety and stress in your life, and you start laying down those boundaries. People don't know how to react to that right away, and they have to adapt to that. And so what I learned from that lesson was, one, my peace and my enjoyment of life really comes down to how I draw boundaries between everything, between people, work life, regular life, everything. Without those boundaries, without those clearly defined boundaries, chaos ensued. So, number 1, speak your truth. Speak up for what it is that you need. Speak up for what it is that you don't need or what it is that you don't want. When you speak up for your truth and when you speak up for what it is that you want, people might get overwhelmed at first and they might get triggered, but that's okay. Don't be afraid to speak up for what it is that you want. A lot of people who don't know how to draw boundaries don't have their voice. They never found their voice or how to speak up for what it is that they want. And so they just allow it to happen, and then they feel anxious and worried on the inside trying to manage everything. Your life becomes a lot more easier when you know how to clearly define and draw boundaries. Number 2, learn to say no. Whenever we don't speak our truth and draw those clear defined boundaries and say, nope, I can't do that right now, or yes, I can do that right now. When we don't do that, we overwhelm ourselves and then we frustrate ourselves. So learning to say no is a really key component here to drawing boundaries and to living a more fulfilling life. A lot of people, they're afraid to tell people no. They're afraid to give a clear no or a clear yes, but that's a part of drawing boundaries. When you don't speak clearly and concisely and say, yes, I can do that, or no, I can't, that brings confusion into the mix. In confusion, there's always unsteadiness in confusion. People are like, I don't know if this is a yes or a no. Things are ill-defined. Be clear. Be clear in your yeses and be clear in your nos, and don't be afraid to tell people no. Straightforward. Don't be afraid to just say, nope, don't want that. whenever we communicate clearly and effectively and draw those clear boundaries, you'll see that there's clarity on both sides, and people will thank you for that in the long run. A lot of us, we don't say no. We'll just say, I would love to do this in the future, or we come up with an excuse. But in reality, when you just tell a person no and you're okay with that, it's the end of the matter right there. There's no thinking about it. There's no uncertainty. Everything's very, very clear. So make your yeses clear, make your nos clear, and don't be afraid to say no to people. A lot of people, they're afraid to say no, so they'll come up with an excuse, or they'll say, sorry, I just can't do that right now because of this, but I might be able to do it, or I might be able to get around to it. Clearly defined yes or clearly defined no. When you live your life in that way, you'll see it has way more stability. Number 3, letting go of guilt. This is where people usually don't say no. They just say some other excuse because they don't want to feel they don't want to feel a sense of guilt. People feel a sense of guilt if they're not doing something. They say, I should be this way for my partner. I should be this way for my boss. And so they say, well, I can't do it right now, but maybe I can do it this time. Or they don't give a clearly defined answer because they don't want to feel bad for not being there for that other person. There's times where we can be there for other people in our life, and there's times where we can't. And knowing how to clearly define that yes and that no will make things more peaceful and agreeable for everyone. So let go of the guilt of having to be there for everyone. Let go of the guilt of having to say yes to everything if you have that. You don't have to do anything at any moment that you don't want to, ultimately. That's what it means to be in your own power. If you don't want to do a job, you actually don't have to do it. Now, you may have to do it to support your family, but in reality, we are always 100% autonomous and 100% free, and we can choose anything at any moment. And so don't do things because you feel guilty, because you're like, I should be this way, or I should be that type of person, or I should be this type of husband, or this type of mother or daughter. When you do things there, you hurt yourself every time that you say yes unconsciously to things. And a lot of the times people say yes to things, even if on a deeper level they don't want to do it, because they feel a sense of guilt. They feel like they should be a certain way, and then if they say no to that thing, then they're going to feel guilty, and so they don't want to feel that emotion of guilt. Don't worry about it. Okay, whatever you need to share with a person, whatever you need to say in order to live your life the way that you want to live it, speak up, speak your truth, and empower yourself and share that. Don't allow the feeling or the expectations of other people or what you think that they want out of you to control your life. That is the opposite of empowerment. All right, guys, that's all I got for this time. Thanks for joining me. Check out my 5 key secrets to client acquisition there in the description box below. Also, guys, I run the School for Solopreneur program. Again, I'm starting that in September. That's a 3-part, 16-week online course with 1 live event that shows you how to do 3 things. The first, how to build your own business online. It goes into the digital space, behind the scenes, the back end of everything. Number 2, it goes into selling from a place that's aligned to you, selling and service, how to give good service to people. And finally, number 3, it goes into human psychology, how the mind, the body, the spirit, and the emotions, how they all connect together to create your actions, because your actions and your behaviors create your life around you. So knowing all those 3 things, technical skills, but then also soft skills and selling skills, will help you give you the freedom that you want to build within your life. That was one of the things that I realized. I had a lot of skills, a lot of tech skills, but then I didn't have soft skills and selling skills. And then there was also parts there where I didn't have ways of being and understanding my emotions and how they all connected. Once I had all the tech skills that I needed, all the soft skills that I needed, but then also a better understanding of my mind and my emotions and my actions and how all of them are interconnected and interrelated, then I started creating my life in a much more easier way. I started making more money. I started being more happy because I understood how everything fit together. And so whenever it comes to running a successful business or even living a life that's aligned to who you are, it's really important to know your emotions and your thoughts and your actions and why you act the way that you do, so you can control those actions and behaviors. But then it's also important to have the tech skills and the soft skills and the selling skills in order to build a business. For me, learning to build up my own business online and make a good income for myself allowed me to come to a point where I felt very confident in myself and I felt confident in my abilities. That's my intention of the course. That's all I got for this time. Thanks for joining me, guys. Have a great week, and I'll see you soon.